Hi everyone. Thank you for joining August 2023's Stampin' Class by Mail. I'm Gina Wieselman of MySweetPaper.com, and I've teamed up with Brenda Cardinal, another Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, to offer these monthly classes by mail. This month, Brenda will show you how to stamp and assemble your cards, and next month it'll be my turn. Have fun making your cards. Here's Brenda with the final of the 3 card designs. Follow the links in the video description to access both of the other videos.
Thanks, Gina. Are you ready to make some unique cards featuring the Earthen Elegance suite from Stampin' Up's 2023 to 2024 annual catalog? I'm Brenda Cardinal of stampintulip.stampinup.net, and I can't wait to show you how to stamp and assemble your cards. If you order a Stampin' Class by Mail kit from either Gina or me, you already have your cardstock and embellishments cut and ready to go to make 3 each of our 3 card designs. Just pull out the stamp set and ink pads and a few supplies shown here. If you didn't order a Stampin' Class by Mail kit and would like supply lists and measurements for each of our card designs, click the link below in the video description to join one of our email lists for that exclusive content and also to receive invites for our future stamping classes. To place a Stampin' Up! Order and qualify for our promotions, make sure you use the host code provided in the video description. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Please reach out to Gina or me if you need any stamping supplies or would like to chat about becoming a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator or hosting a Stampin' Up! Event. Let's get started. Our last card is our Pretty Peacock Fun Fold Thank You card. If you order a Stampin' Class by Mail kit, all the parts and pieces were cut to size and shipped to you. If you didn't order a kit and would like to receive the measurements, go ahead and follow the link in the video description to sign up for one of our email lists. So this card is called an easel card, and let me show you how it works. It opens like this, and then you can stand it up like that. Oops, let me just show you there. All right, so to get started, we have to do a little prep work ahead of time. So let's start by creating our card base. So we'll bring in our paper trimmer. Now the paper trimmer that Stampin' Up! Sells has a cutting blade and a scoring blade. And I've already scored the cardstock, but I did take an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, cut it in half at 5.5, lined it up at 4 1/4, and scored it. That's the first thing I did. Then we want to create this cut here. Okay, so to do that, what we'll do is we'll bring our cutting blade down. Now I'm right-handed, so this is how I work my paper cutter. And I'm going to line my left edge of my cardstock up with our 3-inch line. So I'll do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my scoring blade up to the score line. And the cutting blade has these little marks on the edge that will show me where to stop at the score line. So when this mark on the side of my cutting blade lines up with my score line, I know I need to stop. So push it up, and there we go. So we have that first cut, and then we need to create this score line to make a bend so we can create that easel. So what I'll do is I'll push my my cutting blade out of the way. I am going to turn my cardstock. I'm actually going to put my scoring blade at the top as well. And I'm going to put my card base at 2 1/8 because that's half of 4 1/4. And again, our scoring blade has those same notches. So I'm going to move my scoring blade towards my cut that I just made. And when this line meets this cut line, I know to stop. So make sure it's nice and straight. I want to just double check one more time and make sure I didn't move my paper. And there's 2 1/8. Okay, so there we go. So we're going to score there. All right, so that's the first prep thing we want to do. Okay, the next thing we want to do is with our paper trimmer, when I use the Earthen texture dies to cut out this pot, when I was designing the card, it was just too tall. So I thought, well, my pot doesn't have to be this tall just because the die cuts that way. I could cut off a little bit at the top of my pot. So let's take and we're going to line this up at 1/2 inch. Okay, close that down, and we're just going to take 1/2 inch off the top of our pot. All right. So one last thing we want to do is we want to add our natural wavy trim to this taller pot. And I'll use my multi-purpose liquid glue to do that. And the reason why I want to do that now is if you order a class kit by mail from Dina or I, you received 5 loops of the wavy trim. And by adding our liquid glue and letting it dry before we trim the ends, it will keep it from fraying. So let's do this now, and while we stamp and finish our card, this can be drying. All right, so we're going to line this so we get 3 complete loops. Okay. All right, so we'll just set that aside and let it dry. All right, so then let's go back to our stamping. We are going to start by stamping our greetings, and we'll stamp our greetings in Pretty Peacock. That's one of those returning colors that we used to have. So fun. So we have 2 narrow strips of Very Vanilla cardstock. And we have one for the right side of our card, and that's the smaller of the 2. And we have one for the left side of our card, that's the larger one. So we'll stamp thank you on the bigger one, and your thoughtfulness is much appreciated on the smaller one. So we want to stamp this as close to the center as possible. All right, we'll set that aside right now. And we want to stamp this one in the center. Okay, set that aside as well. So that's all the stamping we'll be doing with our Pretty Peacock ink pad. Let's bring back in our copper clay ink pad, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stamp our plumes here on one of the 2 Very Vanilla pieces. One of the 2 of them have been embossed with this dye to give it a little texture, so it gives a foundation for our pots to sit on. And I'm sure in the video it's really difficult to see, but it is there. It's kind of cool that within this die set we also have this, it's a die but it doesn't cut, it just embosses. Now notice the placement here. We're going to place it so that this rightmost plume is close to the right cut edge. It's down about 3/4 of an inch from the top, so the tallest plume is down about 3/4 of an inch. So about right there. Okay. And if you'd like, you could also stamp that plume on your envelope. All right, and that is all of our stamping. So let's start putting this card together. Let's start by prepping our card base. So we're going to fold our card base in half, and we'll give it a nice crease with our bone folder. And then we're going to open it up, and we're going to fold that right side of your card in half again. So that'll be our easel. And then we're going to take our Stampin' Seal, and we are going to actually adhere the right side down onto our card base. And I'm going to close this and then make sure that this right side is tucked close. So when closed, it looks like just a fold over card. Okay? All right. So then let's start decorating. We'll do this piece first. So we have our designer series paper. Again, this is a bit directional. To me, it looked like we have leaves going up, and I'm going to add our outside greeting to this. Now, when I designed the card, I made this a little extra long because it's kind of tough to line up a little skinny greeting like that and make sure it's perfectly in the center. So I thought if I cut the Very Vanilla piece a little long, then when you attach it, you could make sure you have the same borders on the left and right side. And I think that looks pretty good. I want it kind of centered. All right, so that looks good. And then we'll just trim off the ends here. A little stamper trick, right? Cut your cardstock a little longer, and then you can center it up when you attach it to cardstock, or in this case, designer series paper. And then we'll just put this on the right side, and we'll center it in that section. All right. Next, let's actually attach our inside piece. Okay, so we'll attach the inside piece. This is the one that we didn't stamp and that wasn't embossed with the dies. And this centers up in here as well. All right, so that piece is in. We're gonna wait to put our mechanism for our easel until we get the pots decorated on this Very Vanilla piece. All right, so let's add this to our card base, this Very Vanilla piece that we stamped. And remember, what we want to do is we only want to apply the adhesive to the lower half, because otherwise it's just a fold over card, right? And we want to apply our adhesive inside that little rectangle because there is a pretty peacock border that shows all the way around it. Okay, all right, so we have that. So then let's start adding our pots. So our smaller pot is going to go right here, and we're going to pop that up with dimensionals, and I'm going to use large dimensionals for that. I think just 2 are okay. I don't want to get too close to the one side because I'm going to tuck the taller pot next to it, so I want to be able to tuck that up in there. And I think about right there. Let me just check this out. Oh, I think I'm going to pop it over just a little bit farther this way. Let's see. Yeah, I like how that looks. Okay, so we have that pot on there. And now we want to trim off the excess wavy trim. All right, and then we'll add our other 2 die cuts to this pot, and then we'll put the whole thing on our card front. So to do that, I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to actually pick this up and kind of place them. Now this particular die cut was cut with that same luster paper that we used for our Moody Mauve card. And let's see, let's go here like this. Oh, maybe angle it over just a little bit. Let's see. We'll make sure that these die cuts don't go off the card, and they look a little long to me, so I'm going to tuck the whole thing down just a little bit more. Let's see how that looks now. Yeah, it's pretty good. Now, if you have, like, see this one's peeking out. It looks like it's peeking out below the base. I don't really like how that looks. So I'm going to come back in with my paper snips, and I'm just going to trim that one off. Okay. All right. And then we have our Stampin' Seal on here already. That's pretty good. But I'm going to come back in with my liquid glue, and I'm just going to put a few dots of glue along the spine or the stem of this one. Maybe a little bit here, a little bit here, and maybe a little on the sides, just to make sure it sticks nice and tight. Okay, so then we'll tuck this one behind, and it's going to be a little bit lower than our other pot to create that same kind of dimension. And I'm going to have it be just a little bit lower. Okay, there we go. All right, and we're almost done. We have to add the mechanism for our inside greeting to create that easel. So we'll bring back in our thank you that we stamped and our pretty peacock piece, and we'll add the very vanilla piece to our pretty peacock piece with Stampin' Seal. It's just a little tiny narrow border that shows above and below of the pretty peacock, and then we're going to pop that up with dimensionals. Now we're going to use the mini dimensionals in this case because we want to add several. And we're going to add 6 to this. And the reason I'm adding so many is I want to make sure that this mechanism stays in place, and when this part of it stands up, it doesn't push this mechanism piece up. So we want to make sure that the greeting stays nice and flat. Okay, so then we open this up and we put it so that the top edge of our thank you greeting is about at the lower edge of our your thoughtfulness greeting. Okay, we'll put some pressure on that, and there we go. So if we bring our envelope back in, there's our third card design. Thanks for participating in this month's Stampin' Class by Mail, and now here's Gina with a few more things.
Thanks, Brenda. Make sure to follow the links in the video description for a few key things. Access to the other videos from this month's class. Sign up for one of our email lists so you get all of our exclusive content, including the measurements for these card designs. Access a special Pinterest board we curated with even more ways to use the class supplies. And see a sneak peek of next month's card designs featuring the Joy of Christmas suite by Stampin' Up. Thanks for participating, and don't forget to click subscribe on this YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Until next month, happy stamping!